thank you everybody for attending. Couple quick things, just as a reminder. As a reminder, we do have people online joining the meeting, as you heard. So for those of you online, please make sure that you have your microphones on mute. For those in the room, remember we have microphones around the room that can detect even the quietest of whispers. So just be mindful of that. So at our last meeting, I shared a personal land acknowledgement as a member of Boast Lake First Nation, one that came from a place of lived connection and responsibility. Tonight, I want to continue in that spirit, not simply to repeat words, but to remind us that land acknowledgements are not about checking a box. They are a continued invitation to reflect on whose land we were on, what our responsibilities are, and how we move forward towards respectful relationships. The schools that our PIC members represent across the Limestone District School Board are located on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. As we meet, plan, and make decisions that affect the families and students in our district, may we do so with awareness of the histories that shape this place and with respect for the enduring presence, voices, and rights of Indigenous peoples in these communities. This evening, we are fortunate to have Superintendent Gillum joining us to speak about land acknowledgements. This is to provide PIC members with the opportunity to learn more about Limestone's acknowledgement and to consider how they may choose to share or create their own. Thank you. We did receive a couple of formal regrets. Peter Bierce from the health unit and Crystal Evans LeBlanc. Yeah, I'll say her full name. Is there anybody that, are we? Well,
they can still see it.
they can see us?
Yeah.
Okay. We just can't see anything on the screen. Okay, and I'll continue.
We're back.
Okay. Is there anybody either in person here tonight or online that needs to declare any conflicts of interest? Shayla?
A rare conflict of interest declaration at PIC. For the presentations, item 4, the before and after school program presentation, I'm employed by the City of Kingston, which is the service system manager for social services, including childcare. I'm not a decision maker in that portfolio at all. I'm a communications officer, but some of my communications portfolio is touching on abundance and caution. I'm going to recuse. If you can let me know when it's done. Come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, great. For those of you that attended last time or reviewed the online recording, I say it like that because I quickly look and I can't watch myself in a recording. You'll recall that we did review the meeting norms, so we'll do that again. So, sorry. So anyone participating in these meetings are in agreement to the following: remaining respectful and professional. We would like all attendees to engage in constructive, courteous dialogue and allow speakers to share their thoughts without interruption. Keep in mind that PIC and the board are working together. We are allies working collaboratively to support students and the school communities. We need to make sure we are keeping topics and conversations community focused. Discussion should be depersonalized and focused on the broader Limestone community and not individual experiences or concerns. We need to stay on topic. Please help us stay focused by following the approved agenda. New topics in motion. Only appointed PIC representatives may bring forward new topics or motions for discussion. If there are any guests in attendance who have items that they hope to be discussed at a meeting, we can get you connected with the appropriate rep and we can make plans moving forward. Attendance sign-in. So for those of you in the room, there is a printout of the QR code plus online sign-in link, and with a couple definitions to help guide you on how to appropriately classify yourself. Please make sure you do sign in. If anyone in the room needs some support with that, let me know before you leave and we'll make sure that you are accounted for. And for those online, you should see the same information in the meeting chat for you as well. So please make sure you also sign in. Speaker identification. For the purpose of keeping accurate minutes and knowing, who each other are, please do identify yourself if you are speaking. That includes people who are commenting online. Please include your designation. So whether you are a PIC representative, a proxy for a school representative or a guest, and also please do indicate your school. Guest participation. Guests are welcome to observe these meetings. These are public meetings. We do ask that guests only reserve their questions for topics already being discussed. As an example, we do have a couple presentations tonight, or if there's a question about information I have shared. Guests are not able to introduce new topics or motions. As mentioned already, we would connect you with the appropriate rep to move your topic forward or discuss at a later time. Quorum and voting. Decisions are only going to be able to be made when quorum is met, and voting privileges are limited to parent and community representatives. Conflicts of interest, as we've already requested, any conflicts of interest do require disclosures. Keep in mind that our goal is to always create a meeting space that's respectful, transparent, and productive for everyone. So thank you. Yeah, but the rest of my notes with that. Item 2 is adoption of the agenda. I do know, is the copy that you have printed corrected? So my understanding, I think, is Superintendent Gillen's going to go first. Is that correct? Okay. And then see, we have Laura here. So Laura, I believe, will be third speaker, or how are we doing
She's
that?
presenting with them.
Oh, you're presenting with us.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Apologies. Okay, perfect. Is there anything else regarding the agenda? Perfect. Approval of previous minutes. So those were sent out with the meeting package. If you took a copy from the door, they are included in there. Does anybody have anything? I have one thing, but Shailen may have something. No, you don't. Oh, look on your face was maybe. Does anyone have anything regarding the minutes that they want? Okay, I had mentioned already to Eduarda, but there was information that I shared with you guys after the last meeting with the recap that actually should be included in the package. So I'm going to give her that information so it could be included for the website. Minutes are approved. Now on to our presentations.
Think your voice tone carries okay.
Did you want me to use mic, folks? Happy to.
Sure.
Right, really quick. Louise Scott Gillum, Superintendent of Indigenous Education. I have settler roots on my mother's side from Ireland and Mi'kmaq from the Bay of Islands, Newfoundland on my father's side. I am honored to be here this evening to speak to you about land acknowledgement, something very close to my heart and part of my work world as well as my ancestral world. So, Wallen. And we'll have time for questions at the end of this, but by all means, all of you can reach out to me at any time and or to the Indigenous team if you have questions with respect to land acknowledgements. We encourage schools to take the one that we use, that's the Limestone District School Board that Virginia so beautifully spoke earlier, and play around with it and to add your own contextual pieces to it. That can be school-based, it can be the specific site of the school, it can be with the student population. It really is open for interpretation and playing with, because really that is the intent of acknowledging the lands we are on. So I'm just going to walk you through some bigger picture pieces about it and get into the kind of the expectations. If somebody came to our team and said, we would like to recreate a land acknowledgement, or we would like to adjust one, or let's say there was a new school being built and they wanted to personalize that. If they came to the team, these are the sort of steps and kind of considerations we would walk through with them, or any organization that came to us with questions around that. There it is. Does it work? Okay. First and foremost, the why. Recognition and respect is an incredible aspect of any land acknowledgement. We are recognizing the land that our school or our school board is on has deep significance to Indigenous peoples and their relationship with that land, not only in the past, but it continues today. So it really is about honoring, recognizing, and respecting the Indigenous peoples that came before us and still continue to be here. We certainly want a land acknowledgement to be about education and awareness. It should help all of us, students, staff, caregivers, local communities, learn more about the history of the land. While our limestone acknowledgement doesn't talk about the deep-rooted history of the Anishinaabe or the Haudenosaunee or other First Nations that have traveled this land, we certainly have an expectation that as you learn and grow on this land, that you actually find out more about what did the Anishinaabe do in this area? Where were the Haudenosaunee originally from? How did they make their way here? So it really is about getting to know what that is. And there's a kind of a darker side to that. Obviously, the land is not Indigenous peoples anymore. So we also need to talk about the colonialization that took place, the impact of, treaties, as well as things like in residential schools. So really getting down to how that educational piece and that awareness impacts today and how we acknowledge the land that was once theirs and was taken from them. Relationship building is a huge part of the land acknowledgements. We should be showing our commitment to building respectful relationships with Indigenous communities. The hope is it's already there, but this is a continual relationship. We must continue to build. We must continue to grow. We must continue to reconcile what has taken place. And finally, the most important part to me is that step toward action. It really is about recognizing the land acknowledgement is the first step in reconciling what took place. But now, what is the action that we are going to take? We need to do that with words, and we need to do that with actions. Just some tips around delivering a land acknowledgement. It is something that you're asked to do or that you volunteered to do. We would really suggest that you take time to learn several parts of the land acknowledgement, especially whose land you are actually on. And I brought this. Hopefully you've seen some of these hanging around your school. This is a First Nations and treaty map of Ontario. It's very hard to read, especially as you get older and you need the glasses, but it is extremely well informed and talks about all of the different nations that could be identified throughout Ontario, but also the treaties. If you don't have one of these or you're wanting to get one of them, you can reach out to myself or the Indigenous team, but you can also download them on the website, Province of Ontario website. It really is important to know not only the nations that lived on that land, but what were the treaties and some of the history behind those, because those contain very valuable information that help moving forward, walking in a good way with Indigenous peoples, a little bit more respectful, and you demonstrate that you're really there to connect that learning and that understanding. Really looking at the significance of the land and the relationship between Indigenous peoples and that place. Again, our Indigenous team would be more than happy to reach out to any of your school councils if you would like a quick presentation on what the land means to the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Inuit, and other First Nations, and how we are continually focusing on supporting schools with land-based teachings, a holistic approach to looking at numeracy and literacy in the way that Indigenous peoples did long before colonialization took place. And it's a really significant part of the learning that we try to impart on our students. And we certainly would be happy to share that with school councils. And sometimes it's a good idea to know why your organization, school, or event is including a land acknowledgement. We certainly wouldn't say that you need to do it all the time. We're very conscious of the fact that they can become performative, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to have genuineness to them and real intention when we are reading land acknowledgements. Virginia, I have to say you did an amazing job. And so speaking authentically is certainly something we would highly recommend when providing a land acknowledgement. You don't need to read the land acknowledgement from Limestone if you're asked to do that word for word. You can be expressive. You can add your own words. You can kind of create that connection to the land and the acknowledgement. Using your own words is perfectly okay. And one of the things that we really encourage is when you are beginning a land acknowledgement, if you are an ally or a settler, is just looking at the fact that you're grateful and you acknowledge the opportunity to live and work in this land. As a settler, as an ally, this land was here long before we arrived or settlers arrived. And recognizing that we are grateful to be here, living on this land is something that we really appreciate when land acknowledgements are delivered. It's okay to add a reflection, and we've been working on this. We have principal meetings, administrative meetings. When administrators are providing land acknowledgement, we encourage them to share a brief personal connection or learning. We don't want them to make the land acknowledgement all about them, but I think we can all reflect and think about times where we're actually part of the land and what it means to us. We reflect upon it. Our entire existence we have spent on the land, and for most of us, it is not the land that was ours to begin with. So connecting yourself to something, could be a camping memory, it could be walking the dog in a particular area, it can be your love of water, trees, nature, animals, whatever it is you feel a connection to is perfectly fine to bring into that acknowledgement. You can, and we encourage this to connect it to the purpose of the meeting. So if we were doing a land acknowledgement for a PIC meeting, we're certainly talking about being grateful for being here, being grateful in the space, but being very grateful for our community in supporting our littlest learners, our youngest learners, the next generation that is coming forward. And so connecting the land acknowledgement to the purpose of why you're here is certainly important. And then for me, something that we really strongly suggest is adding your commitment to truth and reconciliation. That's what this is all about. This is our commitment to doing better and to trying to heal and reconcile the harms that have taken place prior to now. And so it can be something very simple. It can be a little bit more complex depending on your interrelationship with Indigenous peoples in your job or your role or your family. And so really important that when you're done reading the land acknowledgement and sharing that with whatever group you're talking to, that you talk about your commitment to truth and reconciliation, but you can also challenge the audience. What is your commitment to truth and reconciliation moving forward? Just some common pitfalls that I would suggest to try to avoid. Certainly rushing or treating it as a formality. It is extremely important that if we're going to take the time to do a land acknowledgement, that we honor the reason why we're doing it and we honor those words. Don't turn it into a thank you for letting us use the land. It's an acknowledgement. It's not permission, right? This is about moving forward. What's happened has happened. We have to remind ourselves about it. We have to remember, but we don't have to dwell in it. We can celebrate the beauty of Indigenous peoples and their communities and the great gifts that they continue to provide to us. And like I said before, avoid centering yourself or your feelings. It's okay to come in and talk about a land acknowledgement and be personally involved in it and really want to do a good job. But just remind yourself, it's not about you. It's not about the event. It's not about the people in the room. It is about Indigenous presence and sovereignty at the end of it. Additional considerations, I think part of what you want to do is to know your audience. If you have Indigenous peoples in the meeting, the land acknowledgement is different for them. We are acknowledging that we are on Indigenous lands who are Indigenous. We are actually acknowledging your land. This makes it a little bit different. You should know whether your audience contains Indigenous people as best as you can. And it's, interact with the land acknowledgement in an appropriate manner based on that. If you are regularly having land acknowledgements, but you know that the audience includes Indigenous peoples, you may consider asking one of those individuals who's comfortable to do an opening or a welcome. And sometimes it's a very powerful experience to have those openings or those welcomes done in an Indigenous language. So we will often ask our Indigenous community members, elders, and knowledge keepers to come to board meetings and actually open the meetings in either Anishinaabemowin or Haudenosaunee. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you are being asked to do a land acknowledgement and you're not really sure how to do it, or you have some concerns or some nervousness about it, please reach out. Our Indigenous team is always available to help support people walk through what we consider a very important process. If you have gone to the lengths of actually having a land acknowledgement, then we want to be there to support you to do it right. And if you are going to tweak or change your land acknowledgement, be sure to consult your local Indigenous community, elders, or knowledge keepers so that we can walk together in a good way when we are adjusting it. If you've listened to the land acknowledgement over the last couple of years, you'll notice that we've changed it a little bit. It is no longer Anishinaabe, it's Anishinaabek, and that is a recognition of the people of Anishinaabe. They are a group, they're not one particular piece, much like the Confederacy of the Haudenosaunee. And that change was done with consultation with our Indigenous Education Committee and Anishinaabe people. So again, just making sure that you are considering all aspects of that work. That's very, very quick. Happy to answer questions. I know that I really haven't seen or heard a poor land acknowledgement because truly when people are delivering them, they are typically coming from the heart and really recognizing the huge impact that they can have. And so even if mistakes are made or errors in pronunciation, again, the intent is there. We appreciate that and continue to work with whoever is reaching out for us to provide that support and ensuring they're feeling comfortable and strength in delivering those. So happy to take any questions, and please do reach out if you have any questions or you'd like Indigenous team presence at a school council that can help with anything, whether it's land-based teachings or other cultural aspects that we can support. Happy to do so. Turn it back and share it. Yeah.
Melissa from Elementary Virtual School. Do you do presentations for students as well about it?
For the Indigenous team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we in the past presented to large scale groups, but we do quite a bit of work in individual classrooms as well. The way it kind of works now is we have TRC leads at most of the schools, so Truth and Reconciliation lead, and then we will funnel information through them around potential opportunities that are out there. We also take referrals in from schools if they're looking to do something specific. We are pretty particular in that it needs to be part of a bigger plan. We don't come in and do I think somebody mentioned the checkbox piece. Like, it's not about checking the box that, we did Indigenous education. It needs to be part of a larger plan to support literacy, numeracy, or another subject area. And if they demonstrate to us that it's going to be continual over time and we can insert ourselves into it, we're happy to come in and do some very specific work. We'll also bring in community members as well.
Do you do virtual though, I guess?
We can do virtual,
Okay.
yes. I would just have your virtual administration reach out. But yeah, we could definitely, and actually virtual, we can get a lot more really interesting people in virtually than we could in person, just due to travel and cost.
Amber Mollybrandt. I've asked this at our school council meeting, but I want to ask it here officially to you guys. So we are one of the fortunate ones who have an Indigenous education staff member in our school. And it is amazing and it's opening up so many conversations. And my question is, what do we have for resources to families? Because the children are coming home and asking questions and it's amazing. It's thought provoking. Like this is such a fabulous experience, but some of us don't know how to answer the question. So what resources are there for families so that we can help the children?
A great question. Just off the top of my head, I would say the Kingston Native Center and Languages Nest would be probably the place I would go. But I'm going to write that down and tweak the team to reach out because again, we could make that connection for families that haven't been there because it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody stopped by there and seen some of the great programming and resources.
Absolutely.
But we could also provide resources to homes as well. So
That would be lovely.
yeah, I think it's Marnie that's at.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Marnie could let us know and we could put some packages together to get to families there.
Yeah, even
If you wanted a
just,
smudging kit or something.
yeah, even just some bullet points, because like,
Yeah.
you get the, like, my own personal child, he's come home, he's like, Mom, I'm Indigenous. I was like, oh, are you now? And how did you come to this conclusion? And like, it's just, he's like, well, our teachers have taught us this and we're learning about this. And have you heard of Turtle Island? I was like, please tell me all the things. It's just, it's really amazing. And they're coming home with these questions and with these thoughts. And it's just like, it's already so new and so valuable. But like for the families at home who haven't received this kind of education, this kind of open discussion, how do we help them and ourselves know more?
It's a great question and I will follow up with Marnie and just reach out to Marnie and let her know we chatted.
Great. Thank you so much.
That's it. Well, well, all in for your time. Appreciate it. Happy to come back
Thank you.
anytime.
Thank you so much. Next up, before and after school program. Well, not that you're the program, but you have information about the program.
Good evening, everyone. We're really pleased to have been invited this evening to share the LDSB before and after school program review. This review did happen last spring, and the presentation that you're going to see this evening is the presentation that was shared with our Board of Trustees in June of last year as well. So as you can imagine, there has been some additional work between the sharing of this presentation and where we are today. And we are actually in the process of finalizing what we call our phase 2 data, which will be coming to trustees in the winter for review and next steps as well. That will not be part of this presentation this evening as it has not gone to our Board of Trustees yet. I want to introduce Laura Gillum. Laura Gillum is one of our 2 research analysts and has been absolutely instrumental in the collection of the data and analysis of the data and the sharing and presentation of data. So I'm very happy, as I know you are too, to have Laura with us this evening. This presentation took more than 20 minutes when we presented to trustees. I know we have 20 minutes. So I'm going to look to the chair for you to give us the nod if you need to pull us off, okay? So we're super passionate about this information, but we know that you probably have lots of other items that you're super passionate about as well. All right, so just to set the context, so we're going to actually get into sharing data with you, but we want to give you some context. We want to give you some things to think about before you lay eyes on the actual, some of the data that we're going to share with you. So the scope of this review involved an assessment of access to before and after school program spaces across our district, Limestone, okay? And so what we started with was the overall question that is up on the top of that slide. And our question was, do Limestone families have access to BAS spaces when they need them and where they need them, okay? And the reason we came up with that question to guide this survey or review is because we were hearing from folks that that was an issue, that people needed spaces in particular places and they didn't have those spaces in those particular places. So we wanted to collect information on that. And so we used an informed approach to this review. We did take into account multiple resources and we engaged in data collection in order to get a variety of different perspectives and from different interest holders. And those included Limestone District School Board families. So many of you in this room, I hope, received the survey and perhaps filled it out last spring. We did send a question to school councils for conversation and review. And we had some conversations with our current third-party program in Limestone schools. And so the presentation this evening is really just a consolidation of all of that data and information for you. So before we actually get into the details, I wanted to highlight some information that I want you to keep in mind as you're listening and thinking about the data that will go up on the screen very soon. So first of all, the ministry mandate, before and after school programs, we call them BASC. So that's what we're going to call them this evening, but they're before and after school programs are programs that provide childcare for children in kindergarten to grade 6 outside of the regular school day and funded through parent fees. And school boards in Ontario have a responsibility to offer before and after school programming in publicly funded schools for children in kindergarten to grade 6, where there is sufficient demand and or viability. And in accordance with the Education Act and regulations, school boards may directly operate before and after school programs, or they could enter into an agreement with a third party. And so in Limestone, we have historically entered into agreements with third-party providers to deliver before and after school programs within our schools. And at the time of the collection of this information and the presentation to trustees, we had about 27 third-party before and after school programs in our schools. So again, you have to think when you hear that in our schools that have students in kindergarten to grade 6. Authorized recreational and skill building programs are another model provided by some third-party providers. Currently, Limestone has 4 of these programs running in 4 of our schools, elementary schools. However, the scope of this particular review does not include these programs. Okay, so we are not this evening when we share the data, sharing data as it relates to authorized rec programs. When we talk about viability, and Laura will talk a little more about that when she shares the numbers, we are speaking about viability as it relates to the review and the data that we collected. And so we are comparing or looking at licensed capacity, current capacity, and identified need. And that's going to, I hope, make a whole lot of sense in just a couple moments for you. And then finally, I want you, when you're looking at the data, to remember that this is data that has been collected by Limestone from Limestone families and providers in our schools. This is not community data from any other school board in the area or from families who do not have children in the Limestone District School Board. I will mention, however, that we did capture any student who had already registered in the spring of 2025 for kindergarten in Limestone in the survey. So we were able to push out through their registration a survey link for those families. So that would be the only exception of having a voice from families who may not yet have a child in Limestone, but had registered their child for kindergarten. This data that we're presenting this evening represents a point in time. It's what was collected in the spring of 2025, okay? It represents only licensed before and after school programs, okay? Not authorized rec. And it does not, at this point, include any information about access to any external providers in the community. So we will have before and after school programs in our building, but it could be that down the street in a community center, there may actually be before and after school programming offered that students in Limestone may have access to. That has not been factored into the information that you're receiving this evening. And we really want to stress that the qualitative data that we captured in the survey is equally as important as the quantitative data that we received from families as well. So this was the process that we used. So in order to identify needs and as part of the review process, there were 4 key components. We did the family survey in April. We did a school council feedback question around the same time. And we had a third-party provider focus group with our third-party providers that work in our schools. And we also collected from our third-party providers their program enrollment numbers as well. And overall, just to give you a quick snapshot, this is what we saw. We had about 1,910 survey responses from the family survey. And out of those responses, 75% of the responses came from families from the city of Kingston and Frontenac County, and about 22% from Lennox and Addington. And we had about 3% from other areas. And you're probably wondering why would we ever have 3% from other areas? But we actually have students who don't live in the city of Kingston or Frontenac or LNA who actually access education in the Limestone District School Board. An example of that would be students coming in from Deseronto, which sits on the border to LNA, come into Napanee schools. We have students coming in from the Gananoque area into the East End schools, and in the Selby area, we have students coming from the Tweed area as well. So that would be examples of why we would have families who would have responded and don't actually live in this particular catchment area. Nearly 60% of family responses were from those who are not currently using before and after school programming. So you can see up there, the last bullet is 40% of families that participated are currently using it, 60% aren't. And what the folks who identified themselves in that category said was that was because they were often sitting on a wait list somewhere, or they were unable to get a spot. They weren't even sitting on a wait list. Or in some cases, we definitely had families say, I'm just choosing not to use before and after school programming because I don't need it personally, or I just have some other way to care for my children as well. And then the other piece up there that's really important, I think, for you to see is 11% of families indicated they had a student with special education needs who responded to them. And we're going to share a little more information about that. I did want to acknowledge that when we sent the survey question out to school councils, we did not get a high rate of return. That was not the fault of any school council. It actually went out just before the cyber attack happened. And so there were issues with response rate due to that. So I do want to couch the information as it relates to school councils from that perspective as well. So what we did with our third-party focus group was we had 2 questions. They're up on the screen for you. We wanted to understand from the providers' perspectives, what did they see as barriers to providing accessible service to families in Limestone? And then we wanted them to share strategies that they could identify or that they are using to address the barriers and to leverage more access to this service. And so I will also say we were very explicit with our third-party providers about this review process and have reiterated with them that this was not evaluative of them or the services that they provide, but rather a gathering of information about the availability of services and the current barriers for Limestone families as well. So this is a really high-level chart around when we took a look at all the information together. We were really able to identify the 4 key areas as it related to wait lists, no program access, support for students with diverse needs, and a piece around flexibility. The recurring theme for sure from families was that there are not enough before and after school programs and not enough spots within even the programs that are available to meet the needs. In one of our questions, we asked families to indicate what they actually needed as a family to meet their need. And families indicated that in the spring of 2025, that an additional 1,658 spots were needed in order to meet family needs. 26% of the families who responded felt there was enough access to before and after school programming. So very likely folks who have been successful in accessing that. The other barrier that came up over and over with all groups was the shortage of staff, meaning the shortage of ECs to staff before and after school programming. That was identified as a major barrier to providing more spots to families. And that really seemed to be, based on the information we collected, due to the difficulty finding qualified available staff. Salary is an issue as it relates to ECEs, retention, split shifts. There's all sorts of factors that make it very difficult to staff before and after school programs with the staff that are required. In Limestone, we do currently have 13 schools, elementary schools, that do not have before and after school programming. And these schools are primarily all in rural areas as well, okay? And that certainly came up as a very significant need from the providers as well. While it is very difficult to find staff in most cases, regardless of area, it is particularly difficult to get staff into rural areas as well. And that is very important information as we move forward and action some recommendations in the near future. Spaces for children with special education needs was a very significant concern as well. And that was linked to the feeling that there was a lack of funding that was available to have support staff available in before and after school programs with third-party providers. And 12% of respondents who said that they did not access before and after school programming this year actually identified that they had students with special education needs. So also important. Laura's going to dig into the data now.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to just briefly walk through some of the data that came out of the survey. So from last spring. So as we were trying to identify the current needs, so this was last school year, 2024-25 school year. You'll see that the question that we asked at the top there, if applicable, please enter the number of children for whom you were unable to register or get a spot this school year. And this is a breakdown of 1,658 spots, additional spots that were required last year in order to meet family needs. And this is the breakdown across grades. You see that the junior kindergarten is the highest at 477, and you can see that decreases as you get towards grade 6. And then we asked very similarly, do you require before and after school program do you require before and after school programs for your child or children for the 2025-26 school year, so the current school year, just in anticipation of what that might look like this year? If so, we asked them to enter the grade. That's how we were able to capture that. And so this is the total 2,567 spots would be needed this school year. And again, you can see that that highest number is for junior kindergarten at 490 spots, and that decreases again as you move towards grade 6 as students get older. That same number, so just keep in mind that 2567. This is the same data but distributed across family of schools. So that's what that looks like. I'm not sure we take.
Do you want us to take questions now or wait till
It
the
was
end?
just a clarifying thing.
Oh,
Just
sure.
a clarification.
Those numbers were based off of what was what the families responded, or the school's actual needs?
Well, we assume that those were the school's needs because that's what the families from the schools told us.
I guess my question is, yeah, so if you had 1,900 or so responses, how many families are in Limestone that would classify as having, K to 6 students, right? Like that would, you're I guess you're basing it on the fact that everybody who could possibly fill out the survey did, right?
No, so we had, sorry, what was our response?
Do you know, do you know how many families there are?
We know how many responses we got.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Yeah.
so 46 people that in the Grec region responded or saying that they were from.
Sorry, this is, total spots needed. So
Spot, yeah, sorry.
individual students.
Total
Yeah,
46 lacking spots
spots, that's right,
from students in that area
correct.
of people that responded.
Yes.
Of people that might not be.
Right, so I guess what percentage of families
Yeah.
did we get responses from?
I don't know how many percentage of families we heard from, but.
Yeah, are you getting students or, yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the response could be a family responding,
Yes,
but they could have several students, so
students.
that's, I
Right.
can't answer that.
right, for sure.
But the total responses, I think we had over 1,900 responses. And I'm gonna get to a little bit of what the population size is. You can just
Yeah,
maybe hang on to that for 1 second and
That's what I was gonna suggest, if we could get the
Okay.
population side, so it's JK.
it might make a little bit more sense when we kind of get into that. But
Okay.
yeah, I know it's a little bit hard to wrap your head around that when we're talking about families. And then, but what we're focusing on here is the number, this is spots, so individual students.
Yeah.
In order to meet that need, and this is what that looks like across families of schools. So you see the LCBI family is the highest. They're also, they have the highest population size overall for kindergarten to grade 6 in the board. So this is relatively similar in terms of distribution, not numbers, distribution of size. It's similar across families of schools. Okay, so just bear with me. Keep in mind that that 2567 number. So that is what we're talking about, the identified need for this school year. Okay, so this top bar is basically taking that, and then we're going to look at we're going to take into account the total student population for K-6. So you can see that top bar is the identified need. So proportion, 24% of that population identified a need for before and after school care. Okay, that's the proportion of identified need based on population. Based on what families told us they needed, we had 13% of, sorry, one moment, please. That there are enough licensed spots in Basque for 13% of the K-6 student population. And then the bottom one is current capacity. So there's a difference. We talked about, Superintendent McDonald talked about licensed capacity versus current capacity. So we can meet 13% of we can meet 13% of licensed capacity, but we can only meet 8% of the current capacity. And then on this last one here, the total of identified the identified need. So the total number of spots that capacity that we could meet would be 887 spots versus the license capacity. We have 1,470 licensed spots. And so what that amounts to is quite a gap you'll see in spots. But when we factor in back to that 2567, that means that even if we could fill all of our licensed capacity, we're still going to be short 1,097 spots. And with the current capacity, in terms of being able to staff those spots, we're still short 1,670 spots. So that's just identifying what that gap is.
Okay, so that's a lot of information. And if you aren't knee deep into this, normally it is probably really difficult to consolidate in a short period of time. But I think we can safely say, first of all, as with many surveys, we don't get everyone responding. So it is highly likely that the need is actually greater than the responses that we've received. And you can see by the information that Laura has just shared very briefly that there is a problem. There is more need in the community than there are, first of all, licensed spaces, and then the spaces actually that can be staffed by CEs. Okay, so I think if there's anything that you take out of all that information is that the need is probably bigger than what we've even shared with you based on the fact we had 1,910 responses. And we know that there is more need than what we have currently for third-party providers. Okay, so keep that in your mind as I talk just really quickly. How many more minutes do we have? 7 minutes left? Or no, are we over 20?
You're over 20, but you're okay.
Okay.
You're okay.
So when we presented to trustees in June, we wanted to, after sharing that data with them, we wanted to talk about some of the things that we had already started to do. So this was actually in advance of having completed the review and in advance of actually looking at what would the recommendations be from that data that we had collected. So I just want to highlight a few things. So one of the things that we have started to do in terms of trying to support third-party providers who come into our school to provide this really important service for families is we have been trying to generate interest from our staff who are qualified. So we have ECEs who work in our kindergarten programs, and we have EAs, some of which are actually qualified as well. And so we are now in a position where anytime one of the third-party providers requires staff and needs to advertise, they are actually coming directly, in addition to all the other things that their own organizations do, they are also coming to us. And our human resources department has agreed to take each of those job postings and push them through on individual emails into the mailboxes of our staff who we know are qualified. So that would be an example of one piece where we're trying to get the right information to the right people. And ECEs in limestone schools work in limestone schools. So it's actually ideal if someone is interested in any additional work, if there was a before and after school program, if they wish to actually work within that as well. So that's one thing that we have been doing, and we've been doing that since probably late spring and continue to do that now. The other piece for us as it relates to EAs and ECEs is getting the third-party providers physically in front of our employees who are qualified. And so I will use one example, which is we have VA days that are targeted towards particular roles. And so last spring, we had the opportunity to have providers actually come to that PA day and speak to what does the role of an ECE look like in a before and after school program. There are lots of different, I think, myths that need to be dispelled around what the work looks like, what the pay structure is, the flexibility. And so we had this great opportunity actually for our employees to make a personal connection with other organizations. And if there was interest in actually continuing their work outside of their regular LDSB workday, then they knew who to go to and where the programs were. So those are two examples. We have also been working really closely with Tri-Board Transportation and working with them in order to get courtesy busing in place so that families who actually don't have the opportunity to access before and after school programming in their own school, child school, can at least have the opportunity to get their child to an external before and after school program as well. And so actually Centennial Public School is an example of that, where Tri-Board has now opened up to 20 seats actually on their buses for this school year to ensure that we can get students to where they need to go. So I think that's another great example of a partnership and a strategy that's being used. And then we do have we call it an advisory committee. It's really a committee at this point of third-party providers and myself and the CMSMs from the City of Kingston and LNA who come together 4 times a year to identify some of more of the operational challenges that we have when you have third-party operators in the building. And so we meet 4 times a year and work together to try to solve some of those issues. All right, so this is our last slide. And this is what we presented again to trustees in June. And these were some next steps that we were considering. Some of these next steps we'll continue to embark upon. Some of them we may not. And the reason I say that is because what we realized after we collected the information from families and from third-party providers and from school council and any enrollment information is we had a lot of information, but we didn't have all the information. And we knew that as soon as we started to take a look at it. And so you will see our number 1 next step is actually reviewing additional data sources. We can't right now make good decisions without having completed number 1. And so Laura Gillum has been working really diligently over the last couple of months on a review of additional data sources so that we can make the very best decisions and next steps for families and students in our area. And so you can see some of the other pieces that we're actually taking a look at. That mapping resources by community and region outside of our buildings is very, very important. And it is a definite piece of the puzzle in making good decisions around where expansion needs to happen and where other kind of pieces of the puzzle can be put into place as well. I won't address 2 and 3 because I feel like I've just talked about that on the other side. Number 4 was exploring the potential of further expansion and partnerships with authorized recreation programs. So you'll recall I said none of this review had anything to do with that. And so that is something that would be considered potentially dependent on a variety of different things, including what our review of additional data tells us. Considering prioritization of before and after school program extended day programs in LDSB schools. So in some boards that have third-party providers, they are in their agreements with third-party providers. They are clear that the data tells them that there is a need in a particular spot. It is very frequently an extended day care because those are your youngest children in JK and SK. And so we are looking at actually being very explicit moving forward when we renew our agreements around what our expectation is around what is needed to be offered. And then finally, and probably the most significant or large scale next step is we are currently investigating an in-house Limestone District School Board pilot. And I'm going to go back to the number 1 again. In order for us to make a very good decision, we need very good data. And so what that would look like potentially is some of the larger boards in Ontario have what they would call in-house before and after school programming, which means that the school board actually doesn't bring in a third-party provider. They actually run the before and after school programming themselves. So you'll remember way back at the start of the presentation, I said there are 2 choices. One is third party, one is in-house. So we have traditionally in Limestone done third party. You can see we have an issue, right? And so we've got to look at different ways of doing things. And so one of those ways is looking at an LDSB pilot. And so this additional data will let us make really good decisions around where that pilot or pilots would actually be implemented as a start. And so I will share with you what we have learned from conversations from other school boards. We've had an opportunity in particular to talk to Ottawa Carleton about their model, and the way they set up an in-house is they have They have ECEs who are board employees. And what they do for every kindergarten program, so this would be for extended day in their kindergarten programs, they don't have one ECE hired, they hire two ECEs. So the ministry says you have to have one ECE in your kindergarten program. They hire two, and then they actually shift one of the ECE's time schedule so that they would be responsible for doing the before part, transitioning from before into half the day in kindergarten. And then there'd be an overlap of the second ECE, and they would be starting their day in kindergarten and ending their day in the after program. Leah?
Just to note, that was the original view
Yes,
of what
that's right.
full-day kindergarten.
Yes, that's
would
right.
be.
Originally, that was the ministry's hope, right? Many, many years ago. Yeah. So you can imagine there's lots of pieces to that. So we have collective agreements with all of our employees. And our current collective agreements do not account for a time frame like that for our employees. So it is certainly not as easy as me going and saying, I'd really like to, give this a try. I think it would be really beneficial. There will need to be lots of work that falls outside of my portfolio specifically. And we've already had those conversations with our superintendent of business and our superintendent of HR as well. So we do have a group who are looking at this investigation of a potential in-house model in the future. So I am going to leave it at that for right now because I'm now at 7:03 and I see a couple of hands. I don't know how you want to do questions. If you want me to grab them or do you identify them?
You're more than welcome.
Okay,
to-
sure. I don't know who had their hand up first.
I would say remember with speakers, identify yourself, not only your name, but in terms of your role here in associated schools or organizations, please. Sure.
Hi, my name is Gallery. I'm representing Amherst Free Public School. I just wanted to know a couple of things. First thing, my daughter doesn't use the before and after school program, so I'm unfamiliar with the timing. Is it an hour before, hour after?
Yeah, it's like many of our programs would be, it depends on when the school is actually like the start time. But I'm thinking of our school at Centerville, 7:00 in the morning usually until school start, which would be around 8:30.
Okay, and then the after school? would be-
Yeah, it would be right after school until, well, folks, I've never had my kids in before and after school program because they're way older.
5:30 or so.
Yeah, kind of, it just depends on the organization.
And then I have a numbers person, so just to understand, when we do surveys like this, how much would it cost roughly for the board? Is it a board thing? Are you guys a third party?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if you want to respond to that, but are you asking what would the cost of what would this survey have cost the board?
Correct.
It would not have specifically cost the board anything as it relates directly to this survey, except for we obviously have a survey tool. It wasn't purchased specifically for this purpose. It's used for a variety of different services. Obviously, Laura's time would be factored in. This is one small piece of her portfolio and my time as well. Would that be correct, Laura?
Yep.
There would be no cost beyond that.
That's it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
I'm Nicole. I'm a guest tonight, but I'm a representative of FSS. I'm wondering if you guys have ever thought about in terms of enrollment, and this is just a thought, but in April or May, you sign up for the next year, right? As you're talking about whether or not there's anything, whether or not there's need, right? So you're trying to map the need. Well, you can map the need by asking people to enroll the year before in April and May. Then you prepare for the next year through that enrollment and you number them. You say, we don't know if we're going to have enough number for you, but we're going to try and we're going to let you know, like, mid-July, right? Or something like that. And I know you guys don't work during the summer, but maybe somebody does. Just for a second, right? I don't know. So, and then it's already planned, so it's not like so you can map it out that way. You can map it out because people will sign up and maybe not everybody gets a spot because maybe you don't have the capacity, right? But you have them numbered and you say, you're number 54 and Unfortunately, we only had 47 spots. You're unable to get a spot this year, but you're on our list for next year at number 54. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I think the difference is, so I think what you're
Yeah.
describing is what could potentially look like if we were to do an in-house LDSB.
But a third party can work the same way.
Oh, a third party could for sure. We
Yeah.
just don't, it wouldn't be Limestone. It
So
would be a
they-
third party.
So
yes.
you don't enroll anybody. They do everything.
That's.
So you could require them to do that because then it could still work as a third party. That could be part of your contract. I'm just saying that if you're looking to see the capacity and how many people we can take in, that's one way to do it. Just a suggestion, it's, something to think about and maybe you tweak it. But also I wonder, are we getting any kickback for this? Like, does Limestone get a partial payment or how does this work? Do the families, I've never had my kids in after school, so how do the families pay a smaller amount for after school if they do it through the schools, or how does it work?
So what I can say is that because Limestone has all third-party providers,
Right.
Limestone is not collecting any fees. So any fees that are set and paid to the third-party provider. So many of these organizations have their own board of directors, right? They have their own executive directors, they have their own staff.
But a fee is being paid.
A fee is being paid by parents to the third-party provider.
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
And
If-
so,
Sorry, if we were to do an in-house,
Mhm.
then it would actually, the school board then would take on also the collection of any fees as it relates to it. Yes.
okay.
Yes.
And does it cover the cost of running the program is what I guess, or are we getting government funding for that?
So we aren't getting anything.
Right.
The Ministry of Education indicates very clearly that school boards must make space available.
Right.
In schools with grades K-6, and our before and after school programs based on the ministry's direction do not pay fees for the space for before and after school programming. There are other childcare pieces where fees would be paid for leasing of space before and after school programming. There is no fee paid. I can't speak to what the money looks like once it's collected at the third party. Organization. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
that's
just
a
was
great
wondering if there was a benefit to doing an in-house thing, and it looks like there might be, but
Well, I think there's probably a benefit for families. I'm not sure
yes.
there's a benefit as it relates to a school board
I agree.
making money.
it's just easier. It's one location.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, I don't know who was next.
So so regarding the third party, sorry, Mark from Henderson Academy and Frontenac. Are they for-profit organizations or are they not-for-profit for the most part?
I think most of them are not, actually, within hours.
Okay. no, just-
Yeah.
Amber Mully Grant, to kind of follow up on that, is there a reason we didn't check in reference to need with the centralized wait list? Because I will be, full disclosure, I did not get to the survey in time. My son has been on the wait list for 2 years.
Yes.
I am a single parent. That has been challenging to still be able to work. So I am one of those people that was not reported, very much need.
Yes.
How come we didn't check with the centralized wait list?
Well,
'Cause
we-
in order to get into the
Yeah,
daycares, we
so-
have to register.
Yes, so we did get enrollment numbers and license spaces from each of the third-party providers. We did connect with Lennox and Addington. They do not have a centralized wait list. And the city of Kingston, I believe, does have a centralized wait list, but we were unable to access the information.
And second question, we spoke on the extended day program for JK. Is there anything in place for grades other than JK, SK?
Sorry, yeah, there are. So most of the programs would have some, either they would be extended day or would have access to extended day spaces or have grade 1 to 6 as well. So yes, there are a variety of different spaces depending on who the provider is and what they have actually been able to staff. Yes, yeah.
Quick question, who decides if the third party is accepted? Is it the school board or the school itself?
No, not the school itself. So there is a process that has been in place for a number of years. It is when there is a a need that isn't being fulfilled or a provider leaves, because that sometimes happens too, where the provider has determined it's not viable for them to continue on providing the service. They can't get staff. They're not making enough money from the fees, whatever the situation would be. Then what happens, the process in this area is there would then be what's called an expression of interest. And so the school board works with the, got to look at the name, the CMS and the Consolidated Municipal Service Manager from either the city of Kingston or Lennox and Addington. Whoever's in my position would be working directly with that person in developing an expression of interest. The expression of interest then gets pushed out through the early years networks. And people would apply, organizations would apply to actually create a third-party VASP in one of our schools. If we have multiple people or organizations apply, then there would be a process for interviewing. Interviewing being staff, including myself, and staff through the early years in the city or LNA. And then a decision is made around who would be the most appropriate organization to provide that service.
And did that happen in the summer, like right before?
Well, it really depends on when. So ideally,
Maybe the process. is
Yeah,
not friendly
ideally.
For third parties too.
yeah, exactly.
That could be an issue.
Well, I'll tell you what's an issue is, and we've had this happen, is that we've had third parties end up needing to close down their programs for whatever reason. And it hasn't fallen necessarily on a perfect cycle of it's at the end of the year. So we have actually had to go out and do this process mid-year as well. But yes, you're right. I mean, ideally, what we want is to have schools prepared and the program prepared in time for start. But sometimes it's not ideal. And if a program closes, then we need to act at that moment. We would. Yeah, Leah, sorry, did you have your hand up? I think I got everybody else.
Oh, no, it was about when we were talking about benefits. And I was just gonna say, I personally think that you would see not a fiscal benefit, but a school climate benefit, because children don't do well with multiple transitions. And when you have children having to go on a bus where there's no adult taking care of them and there's a lot of chaos, and then get off and go to somewhere else, which is another environment with different rules and routines, you have more problems. So I think you'd have calmer schools if they were being cared for in the school. But more than anything, I want to say thank you to you and Laura, because I think you've done a great job of taking an issue. When I first brought it to the board, the message I got from the board is it's a very tragic issue, but it's not our problem. So I'm very thankful that the trustees had asked that you go out and do this review and that this information has come back. And that there now appears to be a lot of looking at something that could be a very positive outcome for families like mine and like yours, who are single parent families and others who need care in order to be able to work and feed their children.
Agreed. We want to be the school board of choice. We want families to want to have their children in Limestone. Having high quality before and after school programming is good for families.
Yeah.
And it's good for Limestone as well.
Good for education stuff too. Many are parents.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Will that then, I guess people who might want to reference this later can go onto YouTube and they can watch the video later.
Or they can reach out to us if
Yes,
they need
well,
any
include
additional
your contact
information.
information maybe with the summary
please
that will
do.
go out after the meeting. And then if anybody has any other questions, maybe or thoughts. That's really perfect. Thank you. Okay. I've just let Shayla know she can come back. Across the hall, coloring. So before we continue, I want to give her a moment. Get back over. And with the summary, I also include some information about delegation to the trustees as well, because if that is another way people who feel passionate about this topic, sort of put a little bit of word out there and get connected with the trustees too. Right. Right. Next up. Election of new PEC co-chair. So we did receive a nomination, which was accepted. Jamie has accepted a nomination. We submitted the biography as per our bylaws, which has been shared out to the reps that we had on our mail lists. There was no response from anybody indicating that they felt in any way that you would not be a suitable co-chair. So, on that note, welcome, Amy. You don't have to come up here today if you don't want to. You can sit over there. Okay.
I know you're keeping my seat.
Next time, this is
Yeah.
your seat. Earlier, I was like, this feels extra lonely and nerve wracking up here when there's not someone like a safety net on either side of me.
Sorry, just as we're introducing Jamie, what's your last name and your school?
Jamie Clayton and WJ Holsgrove.
Thank you.
Do you want to have like a moment to say anything else to the room?
Well, thank you. No, I'm looking forward to working with everyone. I just joined, last year, the PIC, and learning more about PIC because I really didn't know what it was all about until last year, and learning more. I think there's obviously a lot of areas for improvement, but also a lot of successes this PIC committee's brought to the table. So I look forward to joining Virginia up there and helping continue to strive for success. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it as well. All right, on to business arising. Okay. So a couple things just to touch base on from previous meeting. You'll recall we discussed a little bit about the future, some thoughts and ideas of the 2SL LGBTQIA+ focus group. The natural schedule of the meeting would have had the next meeting fall on Remembrance Day. So that was deferred, and a new date was chosen of Tuesday, November 18th. That's 7 p.m., right?
Yes.
Okay. That's what we posted on Facebook, so I hope that's right.
That's fine.
So it has been advertised on Facebook, just using the graphic, I believe, that Shayla created in previous years. There was a lot of conversation in the room about sort of next steps and ways to help promote the group and try and target the individuals that the group is meant for, and what type of work the group will be doing, the purpose and all of that. So there is still conversations happening in the background. At the moment, nobody has RSVP'd to get the information about the location or the online link for that meeting. I tagged as many council Facebook pages as I could possibly figure out how to do when I did that post. It actually let me post into 3 groups as well. So it looks like there's like activity on that Facebook post. But please do share with your communities. Amber, I saw you guys shared for Molly Brandt. Thank you for that. There might have been other shares as well, just that one I just recently was notified of, so thank you. We hadn't sent it directly to the principals yet because we were still sort of workshopping what that messaging was going to look like. So hopefully we can get some response for the first meeting, and those participants can then also weigh in on name change options and what that looks like for the group. So more to come with that.
Just to make everyone aware though, and that is here on the board office. We've arranged for a room and we can have a 6:30,
That's what it appeared to be, and I
Why not?
didn't make any decisions on it. Crystal is remaining, Crystal's remaining as the chairing seat or pick in regards to that group, is my understanding. Bylaws officially are signed, and so it's no longer draft status on the board website. That's the updated version. Yes, sorry.
Sorry, I just had a
Yep.
hopefully quick question. So the RSVP, how do you want people to RSVP? Because I missed that.
Just email the pick vote chair.
Okay, email the picture. And so who are we having come to this? Like, for example, our GSA staff member might not necessarily be a parent of somebody. Should they come if they feel so inclined? So who are we advertising this to?
So I don't want to misspeak here.
Yes. Neither do I.
You're looking at me. Because some of this conversation behind the scenes, there were different interpretations of the conversations that happened in the room. So I want to be very careful in terms of how I answer that, but maybe like in terms of who are we targeting to be participating in this group?
So I think it's kind of, sorry, Shayla, Joyceville. I think it's kind of evolved over time where it did sort of start out like this is just for like parents and caregivers of students in 2S LGBTQA plus community. And then we had really like good and immediate feedback that again, you're forcing people to out themselves, out their children. Like you kind of have to make a big declaration that people probably don't always want to make, especially in a group of strangers. And so I feel like in this kind of situation scenario, these kinds of gatherings, there always has to be room to say allies are welcome, because you kind of have to have that, whether it is cover for someone who's not ready yet or genuinely people who are allies who are there. I know that we've had adults, like people who have kids, and their kids may not be a member of the community, but they are, and they're kind of bringing like historic school experiences and that their own the things that they would have liked to have when they were in school. It is probably primarily, I would say, for parents, caregivers, people whose kids are kind of in the community going through that at school, because it's that really direct feedback. But at the same time, I think, and I'm looking at you, Bob, I haven't been able to go for the last little while, but I do think that we kind of have to have that space open for people who kind of share the common goal of wanting schools to be good and welcoming and safe places for kids in the community. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, you are, because exactly, it's not closed. And so, I mean, just like we said, I mean, primarily, parents, grandparents, aunties, whatever, and their kids, it's totally open. We've had vice principals, we've had, other people that, whether it's something personally, as was pointed out, went through, adults within our limestone community, obviously, that maybe went through hard times as they were growing up and have a vested interest to try and make life that much better. So it's really, like if a person really has a sense that it's something that's in their heart, then come out. I mean, just because you come out doesn't mean that you have to come out every time. You can come out and get a sense of it to see if it's something you can contribute to, or something that can help you personally or your family or loved ones. So it's very, very open.
And it's not like, just to be clear, like you don't have to show your credentials at the door. Again, like we're not asking people to explain specifically why are you here, like give us the details. There's sort of been, I don't want to say cone of silence because that sounds really negative, but it's a very affirming space where we kind of all recognize that we're sharing things that we may not want more broadly shared. So I think there's safety and a sense of safety there that we're trying to preserve, which is why we sort of put up that gate where we want people to reach out to us so that we know that they're coming. And it has historically just been the question of like, why are you interested? And people will tell us as much as they're willing to tell us, but it is to try to weed out people who are there for the purposes that we don't want. We don't want people to come and cause problems, rabble rouse, whatever. So that hasn't happened. If it does, we'll deal with it. When it does, we've talked about, better to be open and have to deal with that than to unintentionally exclude someone who does want to be there, but doesn't want to get into the details of exactly why they want to be there. So
I'll say as an example too, so two things. One is that one piece of feedback I had received was that there would be concern that potentially all participants, it would be a group of allies. And then potentially, which is great, but at the same time, that's not the group that you want making decisions, because those are not their decisions to make on topics and actions. So there was concern about how we present this to make sure that that doesn't inadvertently happen. As great as that is, making sure that those, like, that it actually involves families that are impacted by these things. And then just in terms of like from a safety piece, is that when I did share that out, there was one post that's no longer visible online because of reactions and comments that were put there. So it is important that we do protect this space.
Yeah.
So unfortunately.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, I just remember last meeting, there was a little bit of confusion on whether it was strictly for families or whether it was for families and allies. And so as I'm discussing it with my council and our school, how should I be presenting this so that it's done accurately?
I think the ultimate goal is to be there as a resource team.
Mhm.
Families and the kids.
So
But feels.
ideally, families who
Have a
connection, but it's open. Like, that's a good way to say it, right? But it's open. But ideally, this is the target. Is that
As
correct?
long as you're coming with the right heart space, right? Then we're not going to say, oh, how did you get in here?
I think some of the feedback that we had, I won't go on this for last piece, but some of the feedback that we had early on was also like, you can't like put it on all the queer people to do all the things for queer people, like you kind of do need allies to do some of that work. So it's not just like people who are marginalized in many ways having to continually advocate for themselves. And also just like a broad recognition, families change, people come out, people do like it. We've had people come in and out the whole time because kids are growing and exploring identities, and things shift and change. For not gonna kick you out if something changes.
No, and some people come in and they get what they wanted, like they got the info, they got the support, and that's a good thing. That's a good outcome.
Thank you.
Oh, there's one more question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
All right.
Procedural, you said RSVPs haven't been widely received. Do you have to RSVP to attend?
So, no, if you are aware that there is an in-person meeting here,
Yeah.
technically, no, like they wouldn't stop you at the door because you didn't RSVP. But ideally, we are looking for RSVPs just to kind of, again, protect that space.
If you RSVP once, we'll put you on our mailing list until you tell us to take you off.
Yeah.
So then you're in.
Yeah.
And you're in.
Yeah, 1 RSVP, yeah, that's, because last year,
Yeah.
that's kind of how that was. You didn't have to RSVP.
The Facebook group is used a lot right now. Is there a reason why we're not communicating more through email? Like, I don't check the Facebook group that frequently, and there's 2 of them, which bewilders me a little bit. So I just kind of get lost in communication a little bit with the Facebook communication,
So
which I
with,
thought the board was trying to get away from.
so with the Facebook platforms, what we do have is a closed group,
Yes.
where PIC reps and then council chairs have been invited in. And that group is reserved for collaboration amongst those members to give easier access to each other, to discuss topics, to build that community and connection across the board. There's the public Facebook page. If you follow that, you will have seen a bit of a change in some of the posts that I have been putting out there more recently, where it is a result of the conversations we had last year and the feedback we had about PIC and the transparency. And the information on that public page is trying to put a lot more informative information, not only about PIC, but the work that we're doing, and using that as an additional platform to share the information. So the emails are always a tricky thing to balance, because there's always someone that's going to say we have too many emails, or that the email is too long and too many things in the email. But then there's also people who don't use social media, as you said, as well. So trying to right now find that balance of utilizing those three options in the most effective way. And just trying to be respectful of people wanting or not wanting too much in their face too.
And so which of those Facebook groups has the 2F LGBTQ information in it?
The advertisement for this meeting went out on the public page.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just one last thing.
Yeah.
Important about the RSVP, especially for next week, is that as far as the board goes, really would be helpful if we knew what size of a room we were talking about.
Yeah.
So that it's really nice that people do RSVP.
Oh, I said already about the bylaws. It was a draft version on the website. It's no longer. Now it's actually the signed version. Last meeting, we deferred the PIC rep role review. So with some more consideration about that following the meeting, and then also with mindfulness of different things we have coming up, decided not to put that on the agenda as an additional presentation for the group today, but rather going to redevelop that into an actual resource that then will be sent out to everybody. So stay tuned for that. Just still trying to figure out how to present that resource and what the best way to do that is. I had mentioned about how I was going to be following up with Director Burra about the response we received regarding parent representation on committees. We had a short turnaround, as you may have noticed, between last meeting and today. That item did not occur yet, so that is still pending. And we'll be sending that email to him within the next week. Just ran out of time. The correspondence letter regarding future state of trustee roles, that's in draft status. And so I think Shayla it was shared with Shayla and Crystal in support, as it's the first correspondence I am trying to write. So I think Shayla had a couple notes she's going to add in. I don't know if Crystal did as well, but basically we are just finalizing that in preparation to be sending that. We talked about third community seat. So we do in our bylaws have room for up to 3 community representatives for PIC. There was a couple mentions of One Roof or the Kingston Native Center Language Nest. There was no additional sort of suggestions received by email. So I'm going to maybe propose that we send out, if the group that's in attendance here today is okay with it, then what we can do is by email, I can give you guys a platform to confirm whether or not you want me to send an invitation out to them. Our next official PIC meeting is not until February. So our options are, if we agree to look at this about whether or not I send this out we agree to decide on it electronically, we can do that quicker. Otherwise, we will have to announce it. And then we'd have to like vote on that decision in February. So is anybody against, you guys weighing in electronically about that? Thing online?
I just have a question.
Oh, question, but excuse me.
Okay. Jamie, WD Hills Grove.
And new
With-
co-chair.
I guess I have to review the bylaw in regards to e-voting. So I just want to make sure that we're
Yes.
complying with our bylaws
Yes.
in regards to electronic voting.
Yeah, so we have the ability as per our bylaws to decide as a group in a meeting to sort of revert to an electronic method for items. If we want to have that done in a more timely manner, or if we decide that is the most appropriate for an item.
Yeah, and the other comment I'll make is with regards to specifically the ministry letter,
Yes.
or
Do
the letter to the ministry.
you want to weigh in on that too?
Yes, I'm more than happy to weigh in on that. That is going to be time sensitive, right?
Yes,
Because the minister has acknowledged or has noted that his decision with regards to structure of governance for the Ministry of Education will have his decision made by the end of the year. So that will be time
Yes, yeah,
sensitive.
we need to get that basically by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, we will plan to, oh, wait, sorry.
Meg.
Oh, sorry, every time you
There's a second.
lift your hand.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
The letter, we had talked about having an additional letter that could be like a template for school
Yes.
councils. Are you doing that as well?
So yes, so we'll have that finalized basically after the weekend as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't see any or hear any objections to deciding about the third community seat via electronic. So we will plan for that. I will send that out in a separate email. I'm not going to include that in the meeting recap, just so that it doesn't get buried in anything. Okay. Oh, I also mentioned last time that I was going to give you opportunity to vote on some guest speakers, and I failed to include that in the meeting recap. So I will include that this time. Apologize and acknowledge that I did not do that. I thought I did. I thought I did, but apparently it wasn't in that email. I finished sort of updating our pro initiative library and taking the couple documents we had, putting them into one. That at this point has only been shared on that public Facebook page, but we'll be including that in the meeting recap to you guys as well. Okay, and then that's it from the business arising. Any questions about any of those items before I move on to chair's reports? Okay. I was able to, following the last meeting, get confirmation of our funding allotments for the year. So pro funding is 31,000, which is the same as last year. And then there is an additional, I'm understanding that right, additional 8,492 for PIC engagement. We received an email regarding multi-center video vault. So I'm going to send that information out to you guys with the meeting recap. It appears as though Maltby has essentially a library of some video resources. They list off some available workshops that they have. It looks like a lot of development resources and neurodiversity resources is what this appears to be. So I'll send that to you guys with the meeting recap. And I don't think I gave an update about the student census at the last meeting. I feel like I had intended to verbally acknowledge we received an email. You did. Oh, okay, good. I was looking at my notes. I was like, did I forget that? Great, perfect. Let's check that. We did do the chair workshop it was a small group, but it actually was a very engaging group. So I feel like that was a success by that measure. What wasn't a success was my internet. So we cannot immediately share the recording because, yeah, my internet wasn't great. So that recording, we're working on updating and redoing that. So we will send out that information to all the chairs and reps once we've finished compiling that together.
Is there any way to share the slides?
Yes, but I was just going to plan to send it together, which I think if we can't pull together a new recording in the very near future, it'll just be the slides. But yeah, thanks. We want to try and capture some of that engagement that happened because there were some really great things that came up during that as well. And that's not reflected in the slides. So we're gonna work to put that together. And that is it for the chair's report. I don't have anything exciting right now.
I have a question.
Yep.
Nicole, I'm a guest today. The PIC engagement funds, what is that? The $8,000, what is that used for? And how do you apply for it and that kind of thing?
So Shayla's gonna have to help me, but we get to we get to decide what we spend that money on.
Okay.
So yeah, like any additional guest speakers, presentations,
So
our
engagement
child care.
in our meeting? Is that what?
Gotcha. We can choose to host events. And I think there was in more than once in the past, we have we had earmarked funds that were used in June for the Pride Parade because there was representation there. So we've got some flexibility. It just, as long as it is regarding engagement measures, then we can be using that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And we'll put together, there'll be some emails that go out about some options and we can kind of make some plans for what we want to do with that. We didn't really utilize that last year a ton. I think we just didn't really have an opportunity to kind of get ahead of it enough to be able to utilize that. So hopefully we can do that this year.
And I have a question about the pro grants.
Yeah.
I find that we apply for these pro grants, we get $1,000 to do some kind of workshop or whatever within our own schools. And I don't know about anybody else, but they're not greatly attended, right? Like for the money that we're using. Is there any way to collaborate on our ideas and maybe we each get 1,000, but we invite everybody, like it's an open, it's not just for a one school. I just feel like the way that we use our resources is just not the best way and maybe even open it to the community, because if you're talking about making Limestone great, then you're going to want to make it a community engagement kind of thing. It's not just for our school, it's for our community, right? So it might be something that we're offering to our community, something that they can come in and learn about. And maybe they don't go to our school, but then they come and they're like, wow, Limstone's putting on something good or whatever. And we might get more attendance, and it's also a better use of our money. I just feel like it's something that we should explore for this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. That's allowed and it's been allowed and it's actually been happening.
Okay.
But I think we definitely need to be encouraging that and make that more
I would
known.
love to do.
Yeah,
something like that.
so-
So I guess the different schools need to vote on whether or not they want to do that and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and the information that went to the principals that did reference and encourage them. So I have a child that attends Vanier, and when I was at the last meeting, the principal actually was talking about how he was going to a meeting with other principals, I think, or I don't exactly remember where he was going. But he was talking about how he was gonna be talking to them about opportunities to collaborate.
Yeah.
So, and you can collaborate within your family of schools, you can collaborate with just school where you know somebody and you have another connection. And even if you're not collaborating with another school, you can invite other schools to participate. So Polson Park last year did their Human Library Initiative, and they extended invitations to other schools. my kids' schools, I have kids that are in two different schools, and both of their schools had notifications regarding that, inviting families to sign up to participate. Vanier and KSS last year also did extend their invitation as well. There's definitely, yeah, it does happen, but I think that it's not as widely known that that's an option. And it's
Yeah.
definitely, if you are combining funds, then
Yeah.
each school has to do their application, but in their application, they would acknowledge that this partnership is going to occur. And then if you've got 3 schools, you potentially have $3,000,
Right.
depending on
Or
what
you
you've
have
asked for.
$3,000 to do 3 separate events, but they also could have a theme, you know,
Yes.
or like an aim for the, you know, like I just feel like sometimes we're doing the same things. Like, I just think that we need to be more pointed and like strategic. Like, I just feel like it's just not always a great use of resource. I'm not being critical because I know everybody works really hard, and I just feel like we can do things better. And I think that everybody has a heart to do it. And I just wonder how we could collaborate and do it in a way that's gonna like hit more people. Do you know what I mean? And hit more people in the ways they need help or support or knowledge. You know what I mean? Whatever the aim is of the resource we're creating, I guess. So I'm just wondering if we can maybe talk more about doing that, or I don't know, our school might be open to it. I don't know, Mark. Last year I wanted to open it up and people didn't want to, but I guess that's why it's different for each school. So, yeah, but I would love to see that happen because at the end of the day, we're spending this money and we might as well make the most of it, right? Like, that's what I think.
Making a note for myself. But yes, I think definitely that's something we can, like, when you're saying that, there's things we can do better, that's been the theme of a lot of our conversations since last year, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that any of us have been like, oh, we're not doing well, but there's room to grow with a lot of it. So
Amber Milligan, kind of touching on that, the connection with other schools thing. Spoke to this at the chairs workshop. I took it actually back to my council and they like, we love the idea of collaborating, whether it be for program or just communicating, what does your school need? What's working for you? What's not? And unless somebody is like identifying themselves in like the PIC group and stuff like that, how else do we connect with these other councils? Like, can we just email you and say, hey, can you put me in touch with XYZ school? Okay, cool.
yeah, because there's a lot of schools that are not represented in that group too.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're at any point trying to get connected to a school and you're not sure how, one, you can email the school directly and identify and say, can you put me in touch with your council?
Yeah.
Or feel free to email into the PIC co-chair email and we'll get you connected to somebody for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any others? Yeah. But I kept feeling like, were you gonna put your hand up?
I was
Sorry.
I was gonna,
I don't know if I'm making things up in my head right now.
I was thinking about saying something.
Okay.
I guess that I agree with what you're saying is that
Yeah.
it does happen. I mean, Henderson and Wellborn kind of worked together last year and had events at both schools. And I think, obviously geography is an issue with Limestone. So like the family of schools is a good idea. But speakers, I think if you're just getting a speaker in, like, unless you really think you're going to fill your auditorium, then you probably can increase the number of people you're inviting.
Yeah. Sorry, I put you on the spot, but I swore. I was like, I didn't want to ignore you.
Nicole did mention that.
Okay, next step, community rep updates. So when Peter, oh, wait, what did I? Oh, I did, sorry, your turn.
Well, you're thinking of Patty. Patty was the one that was wanting to say something.
Don't worry about it. On the peripheral.
Great, no worries, thank you. It's gonna be quick. Good evening, everyone. As you're aware, we had our first complete and then partial inclement weather days this week. Tri-Board Student Transportation works very closely with the school bus companies to determine if it's safe to offer school transportation on these days. So they're up very early and evaluating whether basically things will be a go or not. And obviously if it's just for a certain area or not, or other areas. We also, all schools, as well as the education center, flags were lowered to half mast in honor of Remembrance Day, and ceremonies took part across the board on November 11th. As Director Burra indicated in his family communication, the student achievement plan, we are looking for opportunities for feedback from families and looking at feedback in regards to the goals and high impact strategies and focusing on improvement student learning and well-being. And there's a link in his family update where you can go and leave your feedback for that. Also like to indicate that December 4th is going to be the Director's Night of Pick. And that will be at 6 p.m. on December 4th. And we will advertise that and get that information out to everybody as well. And I don't think I have to remind anybody in this room that tomorrow is a PA day. Thank you very much.
All right. With regards to the inclement weather, we all get the emails from Tri-Board. Is there any way that we can push to also have it be a text option as well? Because the feedback I'm getting from a lot of families around our school is we don't get notifications on our phone for email the same way we do for text. And so sometimes we're not getting it as early as we could and early enough that we can make arrangements. Obviously, we can't control the weather and we want to go safety first. But if we had a more forceful way of finding this out, we might be able to plan and strategize a little bit better.
I believe, and I don't want to misspeak, but I believe on a school day where you are school messenger, sorry, where you get the information from the board, whether it be a letter or things like that, that there is an option to click on text, that I will absolutely communicate with Tri-Board and see if.
Because I feel like
is
Tri-Board
something.
had that as well, but nobody's getting it.
Okay. No, I will absolutely.
I want to say it's school messenger because I have the message
School
in my
messenger.
text.
Okay.
It's school messenger.
Messenger.
I feel like his first year, I got them by text and then never again.
Yeah, I think it like asks you every time you log into school messenger, it asks you to make sure that your phone number is there, so that way communication can.
I feel like
I
bus delay.
Yeah, I literally, the first thing I did was check my text messages because I swear I got the text message.
okay, yeah, I have not since like 4 years ago. I just have to go on email. Like it's me that's updating our school like our school council Facebook page. So like, I mean, for me, especially having that information ASAP so that I can go on and share the posts and stuff like that. It would be super duper handy. But like, again, for parents who are trying to like strategize and get their kids to school or childcare plans, the earlier notice we can, the better. And we can't control when those alerts go out, but we can maybe control how.
Absolutely. And Jamie, do you see,
I'm Stan.
do you get the text message for the inclement weather day? Or,
No, this
No.
one was for.
yeah, so actually directly
This
with
was for
limestone. Okay,
buses, yeah.
no, absolutely. Okay, I just want to make sure that
Tri-Board,
I'm asking.
they have an app. Like I don't think with Tri-Board you can I know you can put in your email. I don't know if you can put in your phone number, but they do have an app, like an iOS app and a Google app. And my kids don't take the bus anymore. I'm thinking back, I feel like I downloaded the app and then the app will give me push notifications. But
No,
you have to
I'm
actually.
just
have-
checking my email just to see if there was an inclement weather message.
Yeah.
There's an app.
If the board.
There is an app. Wait,
Okay.
okay. I will also look into that option.
Thank you.
Oh.
Your turn.
Thanks, Gary. Well, we just met 2 weeks ago, so this should probably be kept short. So I'll just go through my little list here. Of course, and I don't know, we mentioned this last time, so if this is repetition, bear with me. But of course, the trustees were very pleased to be able to approve funding we had a surplus from last year. That was a bonus. And so we were able to approve $500,000, $400,000 more to special education short-term staff investment, and to put another $100,000 into mathematics and IT equipment and investment. So the $400,000 is over and above the fact that your board has been contributing over $10 million into spec ed that Providence does not for that program. Because that, at least in the last 7 years that I've been on the board, our priorities have been, to try and put money where we can. Our next meeting of the board on November the 19th is our annual general meeting. And at that time, we'll be electing the chair and the vice chair for 2025-26. How that works, just in case nobody knows. The chair and the vice chair are elected every year from the trustees themselves. Your trustees are elected every 4. Well, we still get elected. So just to let you know that, and then about the next Monday, right after that, you'll see that it's called a special meeting, and what that is where the trustees get together, and if everybody wants to be on one committee, then we have an election. But other than that, put in which committees that you want to be sitting with. So that'll be taking care of the meeting after that. The update, glad to hear that better, going to go that way. The most recent update I have about the trends, now it's almost like a Trump thing. It could change like every day, but the general trend right now is kind of a little backed off on getting rid of trustees altogether. But now the particular wording in the proposed legislation would give the minister free hand to replace trustees for any reason whatsoever with a supervisor. Yeah, supervisor as opposed to the trustees. We're currently under the legislation. Minister could only do that if there is a financial mismanagement or financial problem. And so the current proposed wording would basically, and which is awkward because you elect trustees so that we listen to you. And if the ministry isn't going in the right way through OPSPA and things like that, we advocate to tell them to stop. But if it goes ahead the way that it is, if we did that and whoever the minister was and didn't like it, he or she has a free hand to deal with that. So just that was the update there. The other thing that I wanted to, I was also making notes while we were having this meeting, so I guess ignore that. You just talk about that. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that flags. Okay, so the federal government, so it's not the Board of Education, it's not even Ontario, but federal government is the one that does the flag protocols. And so they changed this year, where before, if we have a flagpole, we could put another flag, so long as the Canadian flag was first. But the protocol now is changed so that you cannot put any flag on a pole with the Canadian flag. So, and there are many events. I mean, there's the Pride, but there's many events or things throughout the year where, we help celebrate or remind people by putting up flags. So just putting it out there, this is not official board suggestion. It just happens to be me putting out there that there would be nothing that the board would cooperate. This is the Christian didn't tell me I could say. if X, their school desired to put up a second flagpole, the board would be very willing to work with them to make sure that it was put up properly and all that kind of thing. At this particular point, there is no funding for that. So I'm just putting it out to the parent councils, you know, that if you might be interested in that, let Patty know. No, yeah, Patty didn't know that was coming. I have a nut. And that's all my report is.
Amber Malibran, sorry to recap, who was the one who changed the flag protocol? Thank you.
Do you have any idea how much a flagpole would cost in the school?
I do.
Okay.
Did you really want to know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you want, if you're suggesting that we take it back.
It's between $4,000 to $5,000. It used to be $2,000. And then our director got back to me when he told me $2,000 to go, whoops. Prices like everything have gone up. So to share with you, it's between $4,000 and $5,000. What would the people,
Facilities.
yes,
Yeah.
they would certainly be the ones that would make sure that,
Yeah.
you know, everything is put in. And that's my report. You're welcome.
Amber Malibran, and if our schools do decide to go forward with it, we have the principals forward that to whom?
Or I just.
But you said it, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure.
Well, actually, yeah.
Councils wanted to put up a second flagpole and raise the money for that. But you would just present that just as any initiative that you're doing each year. And say, you know, this is what we do, we'd like to raise money for it, or maybe you already have money in your school council account. And then the principal would then reach out to facilities and.
So, but I thought we were not allowed to work on improvements to this school with fundraising.
It'd be like buying like playground. The flagpole would be like getting playground equipment. Like it's not,
Yeah, it's
if
not-
you're not adding to the school building.
It's actually a form of. Yeah, it's really good. It's because you're putting up different flags with the thing. Doing
I
that.
can absolutely see you're absolutely argument there where
Yeah.
you could read it
You are
Very
definitely adding to the school.
both ways, 100%. So I can absolutely look into that more, but I would say with Shayla's comment, like it's, you know, you can put money towards a playground and things like that where you're absolutely adding to the school. But under a different category.
Yeah, I think exterior work, like capital work is excluded out of
Yeah.
like that whole capital
And
program.
it's
Yeah, and
like exterior.
It's exterior work, like kindergarten playground is not
Yeah.
funded.
You're not
by
adding
the
to
building.
the footprint of the school so that they can
Yeah.
put more student, like you can't build a classroom, you can't build a
Yeah.
gym, that kind of thing, but you can do like
Yard
yard
improvements.
equipment,
Yeah.
line painting. We put, when I was at Maple, we put outdoor classrooms in because you're not bringing in new people, but if you put in like chalkboards and seating and that kind of thing. But facilities will tell you if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing.
Sometimes the ability to do it yourself is an advantage because if it's something that your council can raise money for, then you can make that happen faster than waiting in line for facilities to work on things through. Like there's lots that goes on at schools and I know that from experience at schools that I've been at is that sometimes you have to wait for things that are facilities' responsibility because they have to kind of go in turn. So that is one nice thing about the items that are flexible for fundraising, but at the same time, fundraising is not always something that is equitable access for all schools. So we
Yeah.
recognize that as well.
That's my concern is that like $4,000, $5,000 for some spaces might be a walk in the park. And for others, we're looking at 10 years worth of fundraising. So that might be something a conversation to be had.
For sure.
and for those schools that wouldn't be able to do that right away or simply don't think that that's the value. When it comes to the different occasions, I was told that certainly the school will be able to facilitate using a big window or using different kinds of ways of distributing, like showing the flags, different flags. But and again, it's a federal thing. It's not a provincial thing. So don't expect the provincial government to come running and saying, "Oh, we're going to give you all flagpoles."
Just a quick question. Is it just on poles that they can't be flown together?
The only protocol that I was talking with Christian about was poles.
Poles, okay.
So
specifically- I asked this because I'm just trying to think in a classroom, you may I'm just thinking Canadian provinces, like geography, for instance. You may have the Canadian flag and then have all the different provinces around your classroom. So that's why I ask, is it specifically poles or is it specifically just hung together?
No, it's a pole.
Yeah,
It's the pole.
okay.
And the only reason I had, it's sort of kind of funny when it comes to our group, our subgroup, is I actually did think it was Tuesday, and I actually was here. And for the subgroup.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're.
But anyways, I had talked to them about it. We thought, well, that's good. If you're meeting with them tomorrow night, you can tell them about the flagpoles. And so since we didn't meet, I thought, well, I might as well just tell them all.
That's the message out.
Yeah.
Sorry. What was the rationale they gave for changing that? Did they?
Well, the federal government, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Now we are at community updates. So public health couldn't be here, but Peter did send a couple notes, which I will include in the recap. He references, I don't know what word that was, referenced the grade 5 and 9 active passes. And so just a reminder that students in grade 5 and grade 9 get a free access pass to a variety of recreational facilities at designated times. And so the information about that and those passes and what that looks like, we will send out. He also referenced the Immunization of School Pupils Act. So there was a media release recently from Southeast Public Health, formerly KFLNA, reminding parents and guardians to make sure that they are uploading their children's immunization records. As a reminder, it is parents' responsibility to upload those to public health. Your family doctors may or may not do that for you. The doctors do not have a requirement to do so on your behalf. So it's important that you're ensuring that your students do have up-to-date vaccine records or valid exemptions on file. And as the health unit will begin their official reviews in the new year. That's it. Is Zainab still on? And I don't know if, do you have an update for Keys? Maybe not? Okay. Turns out there's any technical issues and we do have an update for Keys. We'll put that in the email as well. And then quick subcommittee updates. I've referenced the pro funding already. There were no applications prior to the first review period, which was November 4th through 7th. But in between our meetings, I did email our group of subcommittee members, and we've got them connected in so that they can begin that process. There is one application that is received, and hopefully they'll have others for the next review period, which is coming up, I think, at the beginning of December, but
December 2nd to the 5th, I think.
thank you. Yes. I didn't write that date down for some reason. There were no additional suggestions that came forward after the meeting about other subcommittees that people had interest in. And to the best of my knowledge, Shayla and Melissa will have interest in continuing to talk about developing a subcommittee for neurodiverse families. So we'll stay tuned for more information about what that can look like. This one. Next meeting, our official meeting is Thursday, February 5th. However, as mentioned, we are going to utilize the placeholder meeting that we had set for December 4th. We will have our director presentation that night. May or may not utilize the time for other opportunities, maybe perhaps some collaboration. It won't be an official meeting of this structure. But all are encouraged to participate in whatever capacity you have available. And more information will come about that. And we'll have to look at how we're setting that up and what that's going to look like. So I will share that with you once I have that information. Any final questions or anything before we end the evening? Yep.
So just in terms of the neuro group, we're gonna work on it. If anybody else wants to participate in that, which just brought up, so I thought I'd put it out there, you can message us and we can set up a group and discuss how we want to go forward. And just try to be a good collaboration.
And then once, yes, it sounds like we have a trio. Once you guys have that sort of this, an idea in mind of how that's going to look, then we'll start communicating out publicly to families to look at getting some participants. All right. When I said the recap, I'm going to share a couple stats about rep identification in terms of the schools. So just one thing I will mention that I've meant to mention before is that out of our 58 schools, 33 of them, their principals have responded to the outreach request and identified designated reps. 12 schools had responses identifying a chair, but without an identified rep. So those chairs received that information as proxy. And 13 of the schools didn't respond at all. But I noticed last time and again this meeting, that there are perhaps some people that are participating that we just haven't been given their names. So going to work on following up with some schools about that. I'll share that more information and I'll specifically tell you which schools in that recap as well. So
There's a hand online. Oh, Haley, you have a question?
Yes, hi, can you see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Haley. I'm the pick rep for Calvin Park, but I also have a child at Rideau. I was just wondering, is one of those schools that didn't respond Rideau Public School? Not to be confused with Rideau Heights.
So Rideau Public School responded with a chair, but not a pick rep.
Got you. Okay. I'm on our council, so I would like to fix that.
I would love that.
Okay, super. I will email you after our next meeting and let you know more details on that.
Thank you.
Super. Thank you.
Marshall, it's Sal. I just was wondering, we talked about quorum. What is quorum? If there's 55 schools, whatever you said, what is quorum?
Really low. It's really low on purpose.
Nope, that's 28.
I feel like there's the number 8 somewhere.
I feel like it's
Right?
eight.
Number 8 as I'm looking through the bylaws, but the number 8 is out in my mind.
28.
28.
Quorum of 55 would be 28.
No, I think
We have an officially low.
we designated a low number with the bylaws.
Really?
Yes. Like when I say we, I mean, before I revamped them, the number was 8 and I said, where did you get that number? And I was told we set the bar low.
I thought it was 50% plus 1 for a quorum.
The problem with going with that type of a ratio is, as mentioned about the actual school response and participation, is we would never actually achieve that.
So wouldn't you do 50% plus 1 of your active members?
You can, which
No.
In theory, we could, it's just not what was set up before. So, and when we revamped the bylaws, we kept it at 8.
I think going with the lower numbers probably
Yeah.
better. So that you think more.
I don't think we've ever only.
I can't think, yeah, I can't think of any time over the
I,
years.
but that, from what I understand, it was before kind of my time, but it was when we made the transition, because we used to be in the schools, and so we only had, I don't know how many that would be, what,
How many?
like 10?
It says so just so that people know, bylaws, it's 15% of the total formal representatives or a minimum of 8.
Whichever one we can.
Whatever which one we can meet.
But it was going to the transition from family schools, which was a much lower number, so like 50% plus 1 would be attainable, and then they revamped the whole thing and made it so that there's a space for everybody, and I think at the time, that's all but said, we were never gonna get that many people in a room. We've come kind of close in some years, but it
Yeah.
also, it drops off from like September down to like our last meeting in May, where it's scrounging for people, and we might get close to 8, so I think the thought was to keep it like a safe number where we would actually be able to get business done, so we only have 4 or 5 meetings a year.
I'll say this, like, I think last year there was one meeting and we were like, I think one
Was iffy.
member from like not meeting quorum.
Well, and we were counting.
Yeah,
And
we
we were
count-
counting how many of us, because I held rep seats last year too. So we were counting how many of us had dual seat representation
If we had a
as well.
for someone.
Yeah, you're right. In the event that we were going to be making some decisions anyways, we would be making that known to try and engage as many of our identified reps as possible. So, which is also part of why with our decision to decide on that 3rd seat going out by email to everybody on that mail list, it gives opportunity for those who cannot participate or have not been able to be here for whatever their reasons may be. They'll see that email and then they can decide what they want to do with that too. So. Any last question? Nothing online. We missed a comment from Christy earlier, but Christy, if you're still there, we have made note of that comment. So, all right, meeting adjourned.
Please take sandwiches and cookies, everyone. They're really good.
Nice seeing you all.
So on the camera, I look like I'm getting.
Oh,